I would just like to first introduce myself. My name is Tiffany Hall, and I'm with Waves Debate. I'm our on-campus coordinator, and I just wanted to welcome you all and introduce myself as your MC this morning and evening, and hand it off to the lead coordinator of I Debate Rwanda for our opening remarks.
All right. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon and good evening to some of us. My name is Bangali. As she said, I'm the lead coordinator at iDebate. For those who may not know what we do, we're a non-government organization in Rwanda, and we use debate as a tool to enhance critical thinking and public speaking in the Rwandan youth. So first of all, I would like to thank everyone that is here. Thank you for the time and participation in this. So today marks our first online debate, like internationally, and we're sending a special shout out to Pepperdine University debate team and staff that has been working with us for the past few weeks to make this happen. Thank you, Abby. Thank you, Tiffany, and the group at large. So today's theme is technology and relationships, and we hope to have an educative and informative debate. I'm really excited, and good luck to both teams. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those opening words. Now that we've sort of gotten to know one another, I'd love to tell you all a little bit about Waves Debate. Waves Debate is a co-curricular at Pepperdine University, and we focus not only on competitive debate, but also fostering community and dialogue through different programs that we have available, including our Let's Argue Elementary program, our on-campus programming, as well as our global debates. So we're so excited to be a part of this and to partner with I Debate Rwanda today. Without further ado, could I please have the first speaker from the Technology is a Benefit to Relationships team unmute yourself and begin your 5-minute speech. Start whenever you're ready.
So today, Jerry and I are so honored to be part of this discussion and to present an argument for how technology is beneficial to relationships on an individual level to a global level. On an individual level, for every study that shows that social media correlates with depression or that technology blocks technology to form relationships creates more offline relationships, closer interactions, and even more satisfaction within relationships. Technology has become so pervasive through our everyday lives that any research can only show a small facet of how it interacts with each of us through our whole lives. So permit me to introduce a small thought experiment. If you could press a button and choose to get rid of every way of forming relationships through technology, emails, phone calls, text messages, any social media, any interaction with people through the internet at all, would you? I think that most of us, as we sit here holding this important discussion, forming important relationships through technology at this very moment would choose not to. And I would postulate that this is not only because of the familiarity of technology, but because we recognize that technology is truly a more beneficial force for our individual relationships, from forming professional connections to keeping in touch with our grandma in the long run. I also think that it's important that this discussion of the beneficial aspects of technology extend beyond our own personal experiences with technology and also analyze how relationships formed through technology especially empower minority groups. As an example, nearly 60% of the LGBT+ youth use social networking to create a supportive community, and 75% of the LGBT+ community have engaged in civic action through blogs, comments, and posts online. Additionally, the use of social networking sites is significantly higher among Black and Latinx communities, and they are significantly more likely than white respondents to cite this use of social networking as an important way to make government and legislation more transparent and equitable. These statistics alone show that the type of relationships formed online are important not only in the way we traditionally think about them, keeping in touch with family and friends, but have grown to be a way that minority groups find support, community, and activism. Technology makes oppression and inequality more and more apparent as we become more connected with people around the globe. It elevates the voices of the oppressed. It creates communities of people who never could have acted together before and allows them to come together and to create a cry for equality as it has never been heard before. On the world stage, or even in our own backyard, it may seem that even with all these voices calling for change, the internet hurts relationships by creating an echo chamber of like voices that only leads to more polarization. While there are some alarming anecdotes to this effect, large-scale analysis of the internet use demonstrate that offline ideological segregation is actually more pervasive than online ideological segregation. In other words, we're more likely to meet and communicate with people who have opposing viewpoints through technology. In fact, looking at internet traffic as a whole, there's no evidence that the internet is becoming more segregated over time at all. Based on this, the relationships that we form through technology are actually more likely to promote understandings of different viewpoints and compassion for different groups of people than traditional relationships, a goal I think we can all agree is one of the most important and worthwhile goals in the world. Plus, technology is increasingly used as a fabric for global cooperation as a whole, and the positive fruit of this cooperation only gives rise to more positive global relationships. It is the very fabric by which our present world is made better, by which we build on the best of each other's discoveries and progress and push towards a better future. The ability for global collaboration through technology is what will create solutions to climate change, hunger, poverty, healthcare issues, inequality, and even this current pandemic at a much faster pace than would ever be possible without it. And then the solutions to these issues will only lead to better global relationships. Without the intrinsic ability of technology to create beneficial relationships, our society would be just as isolated and divided as the Middle Ages.
Microphone working?
If that's your speech, sorry, you cut out a little bit at the end if you wanted to repeat your last closing statement. I think we're still having some connection issues. If you wanted to type to me your closing statement, and then I can give it at the end of the next speech, so that way we can still get the point, and everyone can still hear what you have to say. I do apologize for those technical issues. Moving forward, could we please have the first speaker from the Technology is a Detriment to Relationships, Maintaining and Building Relationships, both. Can we have the first speaker please unmute themselves and give the first speech as 5 minutes?
All right. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
All right, perfect. All right. Hello, everybody, and it's a pleasure for me and Elnam to be part of this debate. And our goal here is to prove that technology does not benefit relationships and is not a tool to create them. Before we look into the reasons why I believe this to be true, I think it's important to look at a little definitional and framework analysis so we understand what we're talking about and how we can best judge this debate. The first point I want to look at is that what is a relationship? There are a lot of different types of relationships, and we need to look at what we're talking about when we're saying, does technology benefit relationships? And I think the best way to look at this is from the standpoint of the common man definition of relationships, which is of friendships or romantic relationships. So when we're talking about relationships in this resolution, I think we mostly need to be talking about friendships and romantic relationships. The second point of framework I want to talk about is how we should debate, or basically a metric for determining who wins the debate in the end of the day. And the metric is as follows. The pro-tech team needs to prove that technology is a net positive for relationships, that it's a net positive for the quality of relationships and creating relationships. We as the anti-tech team must prove that it's a net negative, and that the neutral team who's trying to prove both sides needs to prove that it's a zero-sum game, essentially. I think that's a fair and equitable way to judge today's debate round. And I hope you consider that at the end of the day when you're considering who won today's debate. So now that we understand what we're talking about and how to judge the round, let's look at some reasons why I believe and my partner believes that technology does not benefit relationships and is not a tool to create them. So let's look at the first point of that technology results in shallow relationships. I have a couple subpoints here. The first one is that technology and social media in particular, which is the main way you interact in relationships with technology, has a heavy emphasis on physical appearance, especially things such as Instagram or Snapchat. There's a heavy emphasis on physical appearance, which we can all agree is a lot more shallow than interacting face to face with somebody and trying to get to know them through conversation and through understanding. The second subpoint under here is it's harder to truly know people you're communicating with on a deeper level. You see, relationship is communication and communication is relationship. Therefore, the quality of your communication is often the best barometer for the quality of your relationship. Quality of communication is that which conveys the most accurate message from one party to another. Oftentimes, we confuse quantity of communication with quality, but they are not the same. Technology fails to increase the quality of communication because there is a limited medium. Many communication cues go missing when communicating via modern technology such as text, email, or to some extent even voice. Cues such as nonverbal communication, tone, inflection, and others get lost or cannot be conveyed. Therefore, the message being sent from one party is not accurately received, thus diminishing the quality of the communication. Because relationship is communication and communication is relationship, lesser quality communication equals lesser quality relationships. Technology, therefore, decreases the quality of relationships, and it is a poor conductor of quality, accurate communication. The impact of this point is that technology shallows out relationships, makes them have a less solid foundation, and therefore making them more likely to end, have problems, or just generally be a lower quality relationship. The second point I'd like to talk about is the problems that social media causes in relationships, or you can just tag this as social media. The first point is talking about romantic relationships, specifically talking about how it can lead to jealousy in these type of relationships. How many times have you heard about somebody getting jealous that their boyfriend or girlfriend is liking somebody else's post? It's silly a lot of the time. It really doesn't mean much, but it is something that does happen quite often. It causes serious problems in the relationship. The second problem is that social media creates impossible standards. Again, social media creates impossible standards. Social media often makes it impossible to reach the standards that it creates for relationships. It makes the ideal relationship seem like what you need to have and creates an impossible standard for those relationships, thus making it harder to achieve that and making a relationship a lot more rocky. The next point is that social media makes it easier to cheat in a romantic relationship. This one's pretty simple. It's a lot easier to cheat when you have things like Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, and you can get away with it a lot easier by using Twitter or Snapchat, for example, is something that people use to cheat in romantic relationships. And again, that causes serious problems in relationships. The final point under this is that social media enables unhealthy behavior such as online stalking. Social media allows their partners to constantly stalk their other partners' online profile, nitpicking everything that they're doing, as I talked about at the beginning of this point of social media, such as liking another girl's post or liking another guy's post. And this is borderline abusive behavior, and it's enabled by technology and social media. The impact of this is that social media damages relationships by making it easier to have toxic traits such as jealousy, unfaithfulness, and abusive behavior such as online stalking, and it raises the perceived bar of a good relationship to impossible heights. This reduces in a decrease in the quality of relationship and an increase in the difficulty of maintaining relationships. Therefore, we can see from this point that technology is not a benefit to relationships and is not a tool to create them. In the end of today's debate round, we must ask this question: is technology a net negative, a net positive, or simply a zero-sum game? I think in the end that even if you agree that technology has some benefits to relationships, that the net result, the net impact on relationships that technology brings is a negative, and therefore it is not a benefit to relationships and not a tool to create them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Luke, for that opening speech. I just want to revisit Samantha's points and read to you what she sent to me, so that way we have the full picture of what the positive side looks like. So it says here, plus technology is increasingly used as the fabric for global cooperation as a whole, and the positive fruit of this cooperation only gives rise to more positive global relationships. It is the very fabric by which our present world is made better, by which we build on the best of each other's discoveries and progress, and through push towards a better future. The ability for global collaboration through technology is what will create solutions to climate change, hunger, poverty, healthcare issues, inequality, and even this current pandemic at a much faster pace than would ever be possible without it. And then The solutions to these issues will only lead to better global relationships. Without the intrinsic ability of technology to create beneficial relationships, our society would be just as isolated and divided as the Middle Ages. Sure, there are bumps in the way when we adapt to technology. We ourselves can be flawed in the way we use technology sometimes, but that doesn't mean that technology itself as a trend has slowly and unstoppably improved and increased our relationships with our fellow man. For all of these reasons, technology represents, by a very large margin, a beneficial force to relationships. So that was the conclusion to the positive case. Now, moving forward, I'd like to introduce our middle ground case and would like to invite the first speaker to give their first 5-minute speech and unmute themselves. Thank you.
Hello all. Today we have seen from both sides that there are certainly benefits and harms to relationships that come from technology use. Robert and I want to examine how both the benefits and harms are the result of how we use technology and how understanding these can help us move forward towards a healthier balance of technology. Research done by the Pew Research Institute shows us that technology is widely used among teenagers to communicate with friends and build relationships. 88% of teens use their phones to text friends, and 55% of them do so on a daily basis. Moreover, 57% of teens have made at least one friend using technology. These numbers show us that in the generation that has had technology most prevalent in their lives, it has come to play a big role in their ability to make and keep friends. The Mayo Clinic tells us that having friendships can increase your sense of belonging and purpose, boost your happiness and reduce your stress, improve your self-confidence, help you cope with traumas, and encourage you to change unhealthy life habits. We can clearly see that relationships, like those fostered by the use of technology, have an abundance of benefits to the individuals in them. Moreover, technology can actually act to improve relationships we are in. According to Psychology Today, research studies have shown that technology can help couples manage conflict better, communicate better, and feel closer to one another. Of course, technology can also interfere with relationships. Research done by Utah State University concluded that higher levels of technology and techno interference adds up to significantly less time spent together as a couple, less satisfaction and connection, and higher levels of depression and anxiety. Technology can also act as a distraction during face-to-face interactions and inhibit children from developing the skills necessary to foster these types of relationships. According to Professor Parker from the University of Alabama, close childhood friendships help kids build trust in people outside their families and consequently help lay the groundwork for healthy adult relationships. Since we can see that technology has both the potential to do harm and good, we must ask ourselves, how moving forward can we healthily use technology? Consider this quote, "And if the robots do take the jobs, it's our human qualities that will count. The greatest impact of technology on learning may paradoxically be to push us towards the human." The greatest challenge we face with technology is letting it overshadow our need for face-to-face relationships. The communicative interdependence perspective argues that if we're able to switch between face-to-face and technological communication effectively, our relationship will be closer and more satisfying. This may be a skill that has to be practiced and developed, but in the long run will be helpful in creating balance as technology becomes increasingly more intertwined in our lives. To help be able to make the switch, there are several tips we have compiled. 1. Use technology to initiate face-to-face interactions. Dr. Elizabeth Hall suggests using technology to set reminders to check in on friends and loved ones and to get notified of deadlines and events in your friend's life so you know when to offer extra support. She also suggests using technology to connect throughout the day or when you're away from your loved ones by posting comments and sending text. 2. Set boundaries for technology use in your personal life and relationships. Dr. Heidi Hanna compares technology usage to eating, explaining that we know the problems of eating too much or consuming the wrong balance of nutrients, taken more than we need, and we store it as fat, which is helpful in the long if we run out of food, but is toxic if we carry it around too long. Like with healthy eating, we have to set boundaries for when we use technology, what we use technology for, and how often we do so. Easy ways to accomplish this are setting aside specific times and places that technology must be put away, such as the dinner table. You can also set specific locations that technology is kept. For example, tablets are always kept in the office. Lastly, you can keep your phone and other technology in a separate room at night to avoid using it before bed or first thing in the morning. 3. Practice open communication about your feelings. Dr. John Grahl tells us that in order to practice better and more open communication, we need to stop and listen, paying attention to nonverbal communication and focusing on the here and now. While communicating, we need to force ourselves to actually listen to what the other person is saying, and also be honest in our responses and feelings. We can use these suggestions to have open conversations about what technology habits increase our stress or make us less present when with our friends. 4. Educate yourself and your friends on healthy technology use. Dr. Heidi Hanna again explains to us that if we look at how our brains are wired and what they really crave, we see a framework for unwinding our tech addictions and usage injuries, create a procedural manual for living a healthier, happier, and more productive life. We can take some time to do research on what healthy technology looks like and tips on how to maintain healthy balance, like the ones we're giving right now. This is easy if you use technology by just doing a quick Google search and looking at both research articles and lifestyle blogs. For all these reasons, Robert and I believe that technology offers us both benefits and harms, and that moving forward, we have the capability to balance these out and let technology be a positive in our life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Courtney, for your case. Circling back to the top of the round, I'd like to invite the second speaker from the technology is beneficial side to give their rebuttal speech of 5 minutes.
Thank you very much to everyone still being here. So I'm Jerry again. Came back for the rebuttal speech. To do a rebuttal speech for our claim that technology has benefited relationship and is a tool to create them. I'd like to first help us understand that technology or social media, for instance, is more of the exposure of the lives that we live or live behind the scenes than it is a projection of the fictional lives that we create. Meaning that more of what it has done is to provide a more broad realm of our lives. With this in mind, I then say that most points brought up by the negative side, like jealousy, unfaithfulness, body image, abusive behaviors, etc., are problems that exist in human relationships, whether with and all technology has done is to put more of that in the light of day, and you can all agree that subsequently this has made those issues more dealable than they have ever been. So if we take an example, body image, for example, has brought a movement of body positivity that counters the body shaming that didn't really take place on online platforms as much as our traditional communities like schools and families. I believe that having people of all sizes being represented on various screens through technology has been an undeniable inspiration to the rest of the people, that though their bodies can get in their way of their careers or personal lives. With relational problems like unfaithfulness, therapists are using technology to help the couples improve communication. Research studies of technology can help couples manage conflict better, communicate better, and feel closer to one another. In fact, therapists are using online assessments and videos like TED Talks in their sessions with clients and asking couples to use their phones and emails to connect throughout the day. They are also recommending couples to use technology when angry with one another in order to slow down their response pace to cool off. Therapists are even suggesting couples to use apps like Friends or other GPS tracking apps to regain trust after one partner has been unfaithful. With all of this said, I would like to conclude saying that with technology making the world a much smaller place has made distance and physical location no longer an insurmountable boundary to or maintain relationship. But more than that, it has shown all of us, the human race, that we are more similar. And as Samantha said, this is proof that has been, but even when we think it can't get any better, we have been exposed to the most influential people's personal lives that we have related to sometimes in their lives. Therefore, being offered a beacon of hope that what we go through is not because we're or feel alienated, but know that we can go past betrayals or breakups or abuses or rejections and create more meaningful relationships just because celebrities gone through that in front of our eyes and came to the other side more healthier in all possible ways. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that speech, Jared. It was great. Now I would like to invite up the second speaker for the negative case, that technology is a detriment to relationships, with a speech of no more than 5 minutes. Please start whenever you feel comfortable.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I am going to start by refuting arguments made by side proposition. I'll refute other arguments made by the middle ground, and then I'll go back to rebuilding on my case. So first, proposition side starts by admitting that technology is detrimental to relationships according to various articles and research, but they base their arguments on one article that states the opposite, which we believe hard to take in as evidence, because the fact that only one argument takes it into consideration makes it not credible, and it's not evidence. So second thing is, we all have a hard time making rational decisions as it relates to technology because we've been made dependent on it. So the anecdote used is not an evidence. They say that technology creates more offline relationships, but here, as Luke said, we're not looking at the number of relationships that are created. We're looking at the quality of relationships that are created. We're looking if they're strong or not the number. So you might have a number of friends, but how many of those are you really, really like friends to? How many of them know you as a person, as an individual? So they also argued that technology empowers different minority groups to support each other through blogs and posts online. It's great that they're able to raise awareness and create equity, but that has no bearing on the quality of relationships they're creating. So the type of relationships they're raising is for the media, is to create equity, but what is the quality of relationship that they're building? How is their communication? As we said, communication is relationships, and relationships is communication. So side affirmative shows that technology promotes global cooperation to create solutions at a much faster pace. But this doesn't matter. Again, the question remains, what is the quality of the relationships that are being created? If countries globally are creating relationships, how does that help us? How strong are those relationships? How are the citizens of those countries benefiting from those relationships? Because you find countries being in collaborations, but those countries still have issues, they still have hunger and all that. So how are the relationships benefiting us? Even though it might be true that the echo chamber relationships are more common offline, and that those relationships are toxic to the community, they last longer because they have ideological similarities, which is the goal here, which is what matters in reference to the motion. The relationships last longer, they are stronger because they're in person, and and that's the goal according to this motion, strong relationships, and this is offline. And going to middle ground, excuse me, going to the middle ground arguments, they argue that teenagers text their friends on a daily basis, and that teenagers make friends, like one friend at least on internet. So again, we come back to that question: does the number count or the quality? So here we're looking at the number of relationships that they make, and the number of like actual friends they have, and how those friends benefit them. So communication, as we said, using social media is shallow. It's not intimate. It's not strong. It's not even deep. So all these relationships might be many, but they are shallow. So we question the quality of relationships created using internet. They also list the benefit of friendships, which is one, irrelevant to our motion, since we're not debating the benefits of friendships, we're debating whether or not technology benefits relationships. Again, number two, these friendships could be stronger and much healthier offline. They also say that couples resolve their conflicts using technology, which is obviously not right, because as we've seen, technology sets a standard of what relationships should look like, and that standard is artificial. It's unattainable. So, and again, people spend much time on their screens than, they spend more time on their screens than with their partners, causing more conflicts. So we understand that technology has more benefits. Has benefits, but it's to some extent. The quality is what matters, and technology has failed to show that. And with that, I conclude saying.
Thank you so much for that speech and for reaffirming the negative case. I would like to now invite our last speaker for this evening/morning to give the second speech, or the rebuttal speech, for the middle ground case.
Okay, thank you very much, Tiffany. As she just mentioned, we acknowledge both the good and the bad side of technology and propose its healthy usage moving forward, which is the middle ground. So ladies and gentlemen, proposers, opposers, and everyone watching, greetings. Thank you for being here. It's an honor to be here and talk about this very nice, informative topic. We kept seeing from both sides, for all the sides, how that there are certainly benefits and harms to relationships that come from technology use. From all the points they raised, they're actually helping our side, because them having statistics proving their side, they are agreeing with our side that are saying that both sides are needed to have a healthy way usage of technology. As Courtney mentioned earlier, we want to keep examining how both the benefits and harms are the result of how we use technology, and how understanding this can help us move towards a healthier balance of technology use in our relationships. And I repeat again, it's our relationships, all types of relationships. So the affirmative started talking about how forming and maintaining relationships through technology is necessary for all individuals. Secondly, they said how relationships formed through technology often benefit the most minority in many ways, like finding support, a community to belong to, and activism as a result of those relationships developed through technology. They also said that it elevates the voices of the oppressed because they are connected with people around the globe easily. Lastly, they said how researchers reported that offline ideological segregation is much more pervasive than online ideological segregation. They also say that the ability for global collaboration through technology is what we work towards solving climate change, hunger, poverty, healthcare issues, even COVID-19 vaccine and inequality at a much faster pace because of all those relationships that are being used through technology to come up with all these solutions that are needed in the world. And then the opposers came in saying the negative effects of social media in general, like reducing people's self-esteem, increasing jealousy in relationships, both romantic and normal friendships, and also mentioning how they want better quality relationship than no quantity. But if you look closely, social media also creates impossible standards. It also makes it harder to be faithful, and it also breeds up many bad habits like stalking and so on. That's also what they said. But as the middle ground, we agree with what all the sides have been saying from the start. We agree with everything they mentioned. But we believe that we can't move forward if we are not aware of the harms and benefits to be able to become good users of technology. Think about it. Like, this thought experiment was suggested by Ms. Courtney. We all know the harmful side of ice cream, right? Uh, Even if we don't know, but there is a harmful side of ice cream. But if we were to suggest you to never eat again ice cream because it's harmful to you, uh, would you actually do it? I think very few people of you will follow that advice. But instead, we will just tell you to eat it in moderation and on a balanced diet. So you balance everything. So if you were to focus only now on the positive side and say that technology has only good side, we'll be very naive because we also know the downside. We know everything that was mentioned above. There are still much more harmful parts of technology in relationships. For example, when deciding to undergo a medical treatment that might save your life, but you always listen to the risk and what will be the side effect afterwards, so that we prepare and we are educated on what could happen and think of what measure we will take in case the side effects takes place. Also, writing off technology as only negative when we clearly see its benefit. Even right now, as we talk, we are using it right now and it's helping. If you were to say that no, technology is very bad, that would be, I don't know. I don't know why would you women still come here to use technology to speak. Uh, but we clearly see its benefit, and this will be somehow short-sighted. That's the word I was looking for. It is like insulting someone who feeds you for no reason, or your boss, even a mentor that made you the person that you are, and that is still helping you at that moment. But another technology side that wasn't mentioned is what's called the digital amnesia. A study was done by the Kaspersky Media Lab. After testing more than 6,000 people, it found out that people tend to forget many things fast because of relying on search engines like Google, you name it. And it also found that people who pose much for pictures remember taking the pictures, but not what was said. And it is still crucial that relationship it is still crucial for relationship if you forget these small, nice moments unlike the other. As I conclude, Courtney said there are many pieces of researches out there that can prove how harmful, as we've seen our fellow speakers mentioning, that can prove how harmful the use of technology can be. Though there are also plenty more researchers that say otherwise, we can't ignore the benefits of harms of or the benefits or harms of technology. So our only choice is to be aware of both and be well informed. And let me give you this advice that Courtney mentioned. These 4 tips that we are giving you is the way to move forward. To help be able to make switch, let's say you were only using technology without knowing all this, or you were not using it. But this is these 4 tips that we combine to move forward. First, use technology to initiate face-to-face interaction in your day-to-day relationship. Second, set boundaries for technology use in your personal life and relationship. Third, practice open communication about your feelings. That can help. Honesty. Fourth and last, educate yourself and your friends on healthy technology use, and then you will have very amazing relationship. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all of our debaters for a wonderful debate today. As an audience member today, it's been really interesting to dive into all of the different facets of relationships, whether it's quantity over quality, which was a point that was continuously brought up, or whether it's like the possibility for good versus the possibility for bad. I think that I can speak for all of us when I say that it was really thought-provoking, and I appreciate all the hard work that our debaters put in today in trying to craft these very carefully thought-out speeches. So thank you again. I'd like to invite our audience members to submit any questions that you might have for our debaters into the chat at this time. And we'd love to field some of your questions based on the debate today. Additionally, if you think there's a clear winner, please go ahead and also vote for that winner by entering either 1 in the chat for technology is beneficial for relationships, 2 for technology is detrimental to relationships, or 3 that technology is like both good and bad, and there is a specific way in which we should use it looking forward to the future. So it seems like we have a question from Abby Smith. She says, I want to know if doing research on this topic has changed any of the debaters' opinions about technology use, especially during this pandemic. Open to any of our debaters. Please go ahead and answer at will.
Personally, it has. Yeah, I got to do more research than I had done before, and hopefully my long distance relationship will be better this time. Thank you.
That's awesome. We have another question here. So how does the negative respond to the neutral grounds point, so the opposition to the middle ground case, which claims that they are essentially showing hypocrisy for using this medium, seeing as this technology is helping foster positive relationships? So anyone from the negative case, would you like to respond to this question? It's also in the chat if you'd like to read it.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and answer that. Like I talked about at the beginning of my first speech, you know, it's pretty much impossible for any topic to not have both benefits and negatives. So in order for us to actually have a fair debate, the way that the negative team wins is by showing that it's a net negative. And so that doesn't mean denying any benefits, but showing that the net result of technology on relationships is a negative. And I think that despite us using this platform, I think through the points that we made, we were still able to show that in the end, it was a net.
Awesome. Thank you. Elnam, do you have anything to add to that? I think we might have lost Elnam. Okay, got it. She has issues with her internet. All right. Moving forward to the next question. Can we effectively regulate technological expansion on a large scale, or would such regulation have to take place on an individual or family basis? Open to any of our debaters.
I think that on a large scale, that there are institutions that can include in their expansion use of technology some of the things we mentioned about balancing it. Like schools are a place where kids learn a lot about technology usage, and those are definitely a large scale institution in the world, in individual countries, states, cities, or whatnot. And I think that schools are a big actor in how we teach kids to use technology and how teaching them to use that balance And I think a lot of schools already do things where it's like, this is a computer center, like you can't go over there any time in the day, or you have to keep your phone away during school, but we can like use technology to help us with our research projects or whatever. So I think that like that kind of balance and that expansion of technology usage is like teaching kids from a young age that is part of how that can be regulated on a large scale. But even if, you know, kids practice something in school and then they come home and their family treats technology different, then there's going to be contrast. So I think that it has to occur on both levels to truly be like effective.
Do any of our debaters have any further opinion on this particular question before we wrap up? All right, so that was our debate today. I really want to thank everyone for coming out. I want to thank specifically iDebate Rwanda and all their wonderful staff and debaters for helping create this debate with us and for partnering both in the promotion of it and just the creation of such an awesome collaboration. I'm so honored to be able to work with you all and to see how amazing that this turned out. I honestly couldn't have expected anything greater than what we saw today. I thought it was awesome. So I hope that you guys have a wonderful day today, and we'll see you soon.
All right, thank you.